I came up doing outreach. That was like how I got started in the animal rights movement, like so many of us had. And it was just so, I really sat back at the end of the day. And after like years, I was like, I don't know if I've made a single person vegan. Like, I don't know. None of my family or friends have gone vegan. And all these people, these hundreds of people I've talked to over years, I don't know any of them. Like, I can't keep up with them. I don't know if they went vegan. Like, I have no way to know if I have made any change in their life. And that to me
Yeah.
was just like, this is not what animals deserve for us
Mm.
to not be able to like know if we're helping them at all. Whereas pressure campaigning, it's like I now can 100% with confidence say that this store or this restaurant is no longer selling foie gras and they never will. And neither are these, 50 other restaurants that I've campaigned against, or this store's designer is no longer working with fur. And these media outlets are writing about this designer and their influence of no longer working with fur, which is changing how other designers work and how fur is seen like in the fashion world. It's just so tangible and something that we can like really point to.
Penny, who is the executive director of Animal Activism Collective, has helped bring in hundreds of new activists into the grassroots animal movement, as well as supporting dozens of local grassroots groups around the US. Collectively, these groups, as well as Animal Activism Collective's broader network, have been responsible for securing dozens of victories for animals, including getting over 80 companies and restaurants to drop the use of foie gras, fur, and much more. And that's why I was very excited to speak with Penny today about something that feels pretty unique in our movement, which is a grassroots organization like Animal Activism Collective, or AAC for short, working on cage-free campaigns in partnership with non-grassroots organizations. In addition to this, we spoke about how AAC manages to get dozens of people to travel all the way across the US to join their in-person weeks of actions, their Rage Tour, which is their current month-long tour across the US, why Penny thinks movement unity is so important, the benefits of getting people out in person, and even how Penny started caring about shrimp. This is an episode with lots of fun stories about their activism, and we're also trying something new by splicing in some audio of their protests so people can get a sense of the pretty amazing energy they bring. And in somewhat related news, a grassroots group I volunteer with, UK Voters for Animals, is hosting a mass lobby day in the UK where we're bringing over 100 people to Parliament to meet with our MPs about the importance of banning cages for farmed animals. So if you're in the UK or know someone who is, and you want to know more, check out the links in the show notes for more information and how you can sign up. Now, without further ado, enjoy the conversation with Penny. Penny, thanks for joining the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Super exhausted from the tour that I'm on right now, but overall pretty good.
Nice. Yes, we'll talk about the month-long Rage Tour you're on, I'm sure, in lots of detail. I'm excited to cover that, but we like to start everyone with the same question, which is, what's something you changed your mind on recently and why?
I'd say something, I don't know if I like super duper changed my mind about it, but just something I've been like really realizing the importance of and definitely underestimated the importance of in-person networking and in-person activism and meeting other activists. When AAC first started, we were an entirely online platform. Like the whole idea of AAC was, well, we started in April of 2020, so like right at the heart of the pandemic. And the organization was really born out of this question, like, how can we still help animals and be effective activists in the age of COVID and amongst all these lockdowns? So the program started as this entirely online program where we had our mentorship program and anybody could apply to be a mentee, and we would digitally connect aspiring activists with like our network of mentors. And that's how the program runs today. And it's like great and accessible. That kind of laid the foundation for, I guess, the type of activism, like, that I thought was important or great. But I pretty quickly started to realize and have just really been like so like concrete in this fact over the last like year or so
Hmm.
that meeting people in person and connecting with like activists in person is absolutely crucial to developing relationships and to doing good activism and to like
Yeah.
working with people. But I think the thing that cemented this for me was our convergences.
Yeah.
That's like definitely my favorite part of what AAC does. And
Do you want to say what a convergence is? Because I think you guys, it's a particular name for like a thing you do, but I haven't heard anyone else call this, like maybe use the term convergence.
a convergence is what we call like our in-person events. A couple times a year, we host these convergences where we basically do activism in a city around the campaign. 7 to 10 days are most of them. And then we usually have one that's like a long weekend, like 3 to 4 days. But
Hmm.
we try and get people from all over the world, whoever can make it out. We get an Airbnb in a city and we all stay together in the Airbnb. We pack as many people as they will allow us.
Nice.
We live together for however long the convergence is. We cook together. And everybody meets each other and we do activism like all day, every day. These are super burner events. They're like packed full with activism.
Yeah.
We're like suffering together and like being exhausted together. It's absolutely fantastic. And they're usually surrounding a campaign.
Yeah.
So our most recent one we had in New York was around the current fur campaigns, that coalition to abolish the fur trade, CAFT, which is like a group we work a lot with. We did a lot of work with them and their campaign against Condé Nast. And then we worked with ICAW, the International Council for Animal Welfare. We did some stuff for their campaigns, but we had people from all over the world. And this was really
Oh
our first
wow.
convergence. Yeah, it was really surprising.
When you say you guys are doing like activism today, so you guys are like going to various targets of the campaigns where there's Condé Nast or maybe some supermarkets or whatever, and you guys are just basically outside protesting the whole time. And like, yeah, what does it look like? What are you actually doing in the daytimes?
So yes, basically. We usually have like, I don't know, around 3 actions a day.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we'll go to whether it's like the store, we protested Berluti a lot, or so we'll be outside the store doing a protest, or we did the Marriott campaign, we'll be outside of there protesting full force. We also do like disruption. Sometimes we go inside of the store or the building or whatever. And
Yeah.
you can do that in America. I know every country, they don't like the laws around disruptions are a little bit different. That's something we could do as long as, we leave when we're asked.
Yes, yes. I'm sure you do like very slowly, just inching out the door.
Oh yeah, we take our time. Yeah. Take the long way around the store to find the exit or whatever. And we also do for these fur campaigns, we've been utilizing the tactic of home demos sometimes, where we'll go to the homes of executives and protest outside of there. And that's been extremely effective for the convergence we've organized around the Marc Jacobs campaign. That was a tactic that we used that definitely helped to win the campaign.
That's exciting. Actually, maybe now for listeners, I will try splice in some of the audio from some of the I guess the disruptions or the protests, and maybe the Marriott campaign or some of the others as like some illustrative example of what it's like, and I guess the energy and maybe why Penny might be feeling tired after 20 days on the current one.
If you do not fulfill your promise to after these changes, this is what you can expect. This is what the customers of your hotels can expect. The animals blood on your head. The animals blood on your head.
I guess that leads like quite neatly. Maybe so you're on a tour right now. It's called the Rage Tour. Do you want to say more about, I guess, what the tour is, and I guess like what you guys are doing? Like, what's the focus of this particular tour and campaign?
Yeah, it's the Rage Tour. Resistance Against Greed and Exploitation is the RAGE
Great acronym.
acronym. So the Rage Tour is a joint effort between AAC and ICAW and CAFT. And it's this tour that we put together along the East Coast of the US. similar to a convergence. A convergence is like we go to one city and we live in, one house and do activism in this one city. The tour is just we're traveling, and the goal with that is to go into the communities. This is another thing that's made me realize like just how important it is to like meet these people, meet these communities in person and learn the culture of the specific activism community and to better connect with people. But basically, we're hitting like key cities along the East Coast and bringing our campaigns and our activism like to these cities and meeting the people in these cities and just doing work with them and showing them the campaigns and trying to like get them hyped about our campaigns. The flip side to the convergences, come to this activism. The tour is like, we're bringing the activism like to you in your city. And this is how
Yeah.
it can fit into your community. I could tell you some cool stories from the tour if you want.
Please go for it.
Okay, cool.
Well, actually, wait, one thing
Yeah.
before that. So, yeah, this is a collaboration between you guys, ICAW and CAFT. CAFT works on the fur trade. ICAW is predominantly, I guess, on like cage-free eggs and shrimp,
Yes.
and I think you guys are maybe a bit more broad. So, like, what's like the unifying thread that ties together the tour? Like, what are the different kinds of campaigns and targets that you guys will be
Yeah.
hitting over this month?
Yeah. So CAFT is, the Coalition of Lost Fur Trade. They do like the best fur campaigns like the movement has ever seen, honestly. They're extremely effective. And then ICAW is a new group and they're doing like fantastic demos for welfare, like the best demos for welfare like I have ever seen and I think that have ever been put on. If I would be so bold to say, some of the best at least. And then AAC, like our primary objective is movement building. So kind of the thought between all of us working together is ICAW has the welfare campaigns, the campaigns that make the impact for the most animals. CAFT has the fur campaigns, which are campaigns that the grassroots is just so excited about. We've seen more mobilization come out of fur campaigns than any other type of campaign. And I think that's for a few reasons. It's definitely more like abolitionist rooted. It's rooted in this like philosophy of being able to abolish the fur trade. So it has that draw for grassroots activists. Fur is also like a dying trend. And we've just, I mean, over the last like several years, CAPT has seen like just an incredible amount of victories. Like most recently, probably the biggest victory. They've had more since the Marc Jacobs win, but when they beat Marc Jacobs in 2024, it was like the biggest, most influential American designer who went completely fur free and attributed his decision to activist pressure. And then AAC, like we're able to mobilize the grassroots. Like we've really built this network of just amazing, dedicated activists. So we're like the movement mobilization force for both of these campaigns. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. It's
Okay.
very helpful. And I guess, yeah, definitely we'll talk about the collaboration, but maybe, do you want to mention a few of these stories of like,
Yes.
of the tour?
So our first stop was in Boston. And the first demo we did in Boston was for the Omni campaign. And the Omni campaign is actually like an AAC Duck Alliance campaign, if you know the organization Duck Alliance. And it is asking Omni Hotel and Resorts to drop foie gras from their 50 plus locations. And so there's a Omni in Boston, and the locals have done some actions around that over the month campaign's been around. So that was our first action. Typical action where, screaming at the Omni. Great, it's loud, we're talking, it's like fake blood, the whole 9 yards, whatever. Great demo, goes off without a hitch. And we're like walking away. And we didn't really, there's a lot of locals that came out. I didn't get to say hey to everybody before the demo started. Some people like trickled in. And I just standing next to this local who I didn't know. And I was introducing myself and he's introducing himself. And I'm like, you come to these often, do you do this activism in general? And he's, no, this is the first protest I've ever been to.
Oh, wow.
I mainly done outreach, but he didn't even really know what the tour was. He's like, I don't know any of you people. I need to meet you guys and get in with you. This is like the coolest thing I've ever been a part of.
That's awesome.
And yeah, we just ended up talking more and he joined our tour.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So he's been on the road with us. He had to step off for a little bit, but he just joined. We're back in Charlotte right now and came back for that. And he's going to finish out the tour with us. He went from like never going to a protest to being so like stoked about pressure campaigns. And he joined this tour with a bunch of strangers, for basically a whole month.
Wow. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is totally nuts. And like you to go from going from your first one to then basically doing it full time. It's just like, yeah, it's like your whole life for like several weeks. So that takes a pretty insane level of dedication. It shows he must have been, yes, so inspired. So that is very cool
Yes.
and amazing that he could like just do that and was up for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I wanted to ask you. I think you kind of hinted at it before. Is like the collaboration between the different groups because you, I think it's pretty rare amongst in the animal movement nowadays, at least, that there's like really kind of like hard hitting pressure campaigns that like targeting people's houses or
Hmm.
like supermarkets, whatever hotel chains, and the kind of like that goes with, like the welfare asks, whether it's cage free and the stuff that ICAW is doing. And I'm kind of curious, like, how did this start? Because yeah, often the kind of more welfare campaigning happens is more like digital, more online, like very small turnout, or like not very grassroots. I'm kind of curious, like how this kind of partnership or like working together between ICAW and you guys at AAC started.
I'd have to say it all started very recently at this DC summit. So this summit that happened in Washington DC back in March. It was organized by the Simple Heart, like Wayne Chung's
Nice.
organization, and AAC collaborated with it, and CAFT. I can't remember if ICAW like actually on paper collaborated with it. Whatever, they were there,
Yeah.
and a bunch of other groups were. So there was this summit, which was very like informational during the day. And then not officially affiliated with the summit, but like after each day, our three groups organized demos. And this summit brought like a lot of people, more than come out to a convergence. Like usually we get around like 50 to 70 at a convergence. And here there were like way over 100. So we were like, all right, we gotta use this people power for the campaigns. We organized an Omni demo in, because there's an Omni hotel in DC. CAFT organized a fur protest. I can't remember exactly which one they went to. One of their, I think it was Laura Piana, which is like one of their current campaigns. But they mobilized around their campaign, and ICAW organized the Marriott demo. And ICAW's was on the last day, and everybody from ICAW showed up to both CAFT and AAC demos, and they brought the energy. They were great. And I got to meet Chris, who's the CEO of ICAW, and some other people from ICAW, and they were just fantastic. They all have a wealth of knowledge. So it was great to talk to somebody who's been involved in campaigns for so long. And then they organized their Marriott demo, and we brought all of our people to their demo. And I did not know welfare demos could be not boring. That could be cool. Man, it was great. And it was literally just like, if at this point you've spliced the audio in with the podcast,
Yes.
listeners are getting an idea for like how
Yeah.
crazy our demos are. It
Yes,
was,
I've seen the Mario stuff on Instagram, and it is pretty nuts. And
oh yeah,
but like this intensity, I mean, I agree that I've also been some protests that are like extremely tame, and it's not very fun or exciting or like inspiring. But like, and
yeah.
like, what do you think made these ones different? Like, was it because like the ICOR team themselves were there, or like was it like energy you guys brought? I'm curious, like why these were different, or like and like how they were different.
I think it's like a mixture of both. I mean, honestly, it's just like our people, like AAC and CAP people, are just gonna be like that everywhere. Whatever how they are. Like, I mean, unless they're capable of listening to the organizer's instructions or whatever. But they're so used to bringing the energy.
10 years ago, you promised to stop keeping chickens in the most extreme confinement imaginable, and you have broke that promise. Cage free! Cage free! Let's goddamn organism!
all of our demos are crazy and high energy. And ICAW, I think the difference is that ICAW is okay with these engaging demos and ones that are a bit more high energy and they understand. And there are other welfare groups that are starting to be like this, but I call like right out of the bat understood the power of the grassroots and to animal liberation and the unique things that the grassroots is able to do. The grassroots like doesn't answer to anybody. They don't have restrictions on them. It's literally just like people.
Mm.
And ICAW recognized that. So we brought our people there and it was a demo that I can guess that Marriott still talks about today amongst the executives. It was just like very hard hitting and unlike anything that cage free has really seen, at least in the recent animal rights history. But yeah, so I call being okay with these types of demos being put on, and then just like the AAC activists,
Yeah.
being able to like bring the energy and being allowed
Yeah, yeah.
to.
And can you say more about like the AAC activists? I guess like when you first said to them like, "Oh, we're going to do some work on cage free," like was there any initial kind of like skepticism or concerns? Or they just like, "Hell yeah, this makes total sense. Let's go for it." Like, yeah, how did that initially land?
It has been like a mixed reaction, but honestly, I was prepared for way more pushback
Yeah,
because we have touted ourselves as definitely when we first started, we were explicitly like an abolitionist group.
yeah,
And we've definitely like attracted people that describe self-described abolitionists. And I think that word is such like a just used incorrectly. Like
yeah, yeah,
people who, it makes it seem like people who organize for welfare stuff don't want abolition, don't want
yeah,
animal
totally.
liberation. Yeah, which is
Yeah, yeah,
not true at all.
yeah.
So yeah, I was definitely like expecting our people to heavily push back, but honestly, it's been overwhelmingly like supportive and
Nice.
everybody has been just like after going to the demos and seeing that they're just like the demos they put on for everything else
Yeah.
and now their friends like me and other people who've been at AAC for a while are able to
Mm.
talk to them about welfare and talk to them about
Yeah,
the actual difference it makes in in these animals' lives and like the
yeah.
sheer number of animals that are helped. And honestly, I think it has a lot to do with AAC's push for pressure campaigning. Like CAFT and AAC have really been laying the groundwork in the grassroots, how effective pressure campaigning is. And like when I talk about this, I realize in the 90s and like early 2000s, pressure campaigning was extremely popular, but I'm more talking about 2016, to 21.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when I first started getting involved in activism, pressure campaigning was not something that was in like the lexicon of animal rights.
Mm.
So we really had to lay that groundwork with this crop of activists that exists now and got
Mhm.
started around that time. And pressure campaigning was not like super well received amongst everybody at that time. And we still even now get pushback for pressure campaigning and saying that like, single issue campaigns are speciesist, but it
Oh,
was
wow.
oh yeah, oh
That's
my
crazy.
god. Yeah, so we still get pushback from that. Like people I've recently talked with people who still tell me like I'm not doing pressure campaigns because they're single issue and like all animals deserve to be advocated for all the time in the
Mm.
same demo, which is such an unhelpful way of looking at activism in my opinion. And like
Yeah,
really comes from this place of feeling morally superior, which has more to do with us, not even morally superior, but just more like morally congruent or something. It
yeah.
has to do with like how you feel as an activist more than what actually helps animals, like that kind of attitude.
What specifically do you refer to when you're saying pressure campaigns?
So a pressure campaign is a campaign that has a specific ask of a company,
Yeah,
whether you're getting them to, it usually has to do with getting them to like remove a product, you
yeah.
know, like all these fur pressure campaigns, it's getting a designer to drop fur from their line. It's something that is like actually doable.
Yeah, concrete and winnable. Something.
Yes.
Okay, nice. And I
Yeah.
guess, I mean, I totally agree. I'm excited about these kind of campaigns as well because, I think it's come up in a couple of conversations I've had is like, winning is great. Winning is good for so many reasons. It's good to build momentum. People get excited. It draws more people in. And I guess, yeah, how come, I guess, you or AAC thinks pressure campaigning is such like a important thing that we should focus on as a movement?
I just think anything that like wins for animals or tangibly moves the needle forward for animals is what animals deserve.
Yeah.
I know personally I came up doing outreach. That was like how I got started in the animal rights movement, like so many of us had. And it was just I really sat back at the end of the day. And after like years, I was like, I don't know if I've made a single person vegan. Like, I don't know. None of my family or friends have gone vegan, and all these hundreds of people I've talked to over years, I don't know any of them. Like, I can't keep up with them. I don't know if they went vegan. Like, I have no way to know if I have made any change in their life, and that to me
Yeah.
was just like, this is not what animals deserve for us
Mm,
to not be able to, like, know if we're helping them at all. Whereas pressure campaigning, it's like I now can 100% with confidence say that this store or this restaurant is no longer selling foie gras and they never will. And neither are these, 50 other restaurants that I've campaigned against, or this store's designer is no longer working with fur. And these media outlets are writing about this designer and their influence of no longer working with fur, which is changing how other designers work and how fur is seen like in the fashion world. It's just so tangible and something that we can like really point to.
nice.
And I think that's like the main draw for people, which was the thing that helped them get the welfare campaigns because that's like a very tangible thing
Yeah.
and it's measurable and we can see it and it undoubtedly helps animals. And I think once some activists, including myself, like I had a very similar journey with like welfarism, but once we get over that like mental block of this isn't what animals deserve and we like have to be like advocating for all of them, once you really look at it and are like, I am making like actual real change for millions of animals every single year. Like
Mm,
now, if we win this cage free campaign, it's millions of animals who will no longer be locked in cages. For example, like Marc Jacobs at the time when we were campaigning against him did not sell fur. He'd recently
all right.
used fur. Yeah, he recently used fur in like a collaboration in with another designer.
Yeah.
And we then use that opportunity to get him to announce the policy that was relevant. But that wasn't necessarily a satisfying ask. Same thing with these omni locations. Like most omni locations do not sell foie gras. They have in the past, but it's more
Yeah.
about asking them to make commitment and a policy into the future. So it's not always super satisfying, but everybody
Mm.
understands like how this will tangibly help animals. So, the activists are already on board with doing things that maybe don't feel super more like satisfying,
Yeah, yeah.
but that do help animals.
That is interesting. Yeah, it almost seems like people, yeah, I guess like, what they really want is maybe like some like tangible signs of progress for animals, and it's not like, I mean, I kind of share your opinion, which is like I don't think people are often like ideologically against like improvements to animals' welfare. They're like, yes, this is a good thing, and I agree. Like it's a bit misnomer to be like this is all the welfarists want. It's like no way. It's like if you go talk to people who work at these groups that do welfare campaigns, like most of them like want the end of animal farming, if not at least like the like
Yeah.
factory farming, like almost like 99% of the time. So it's like it's very similar goals. It's just how we get there. So I guess it's kind of quite reassuring to see that people in the grassroots can get fired up about this stuff because they also know like this is going to make a huge improvement to loads of lives, and this is just like one step, and like it's not where we stop, but we just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. So yeah, I guess it feels inspiring that yeah you guys are doing this, and like how do you think we can see more of this kind of collaboration as a movement between like people like the AAC and ICAW? Like do you think there's scope for more of this, and like almost like what would you recommend to people who do want to create things like this?
I hope we see more collaboration like this in the movement. I think this is so important. Disconnect doesn't just end with like abolitionist groups and welfare groups or whatever. There's just so much division in our movement and like writing people off. And I think we're never going to see like this type of collaboration if we don't start not writing people off and getting to know these organizations and the people involved in these organizations and their interests. Like I mentioned, I wasn't always welfare supporter or whatever.
Yeah.
I was very much like I came up through this where abolitionist was like the good term and then welfarist was like the
Yeah, yeah.
slur almost,
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
bad term. And honestly, what really did it for me personally was, and this kind of sounds like a little bit dumb now that I say it out loud, but it was like the shrimp eye stalk ablation footage. I just watched a clip of it because I like heard about those protests and I was like, okay, like shrimp, we're asking these companies to not like do this thing. All right, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's kinda
And
weird, huh?
then I watched the footage and I like it was like for some reason it was really like gut wrenching. It was this like the shrimp getting like her like the eyes cut off and then
Yeah.
she was like rubbing her like eye
Oh,
stalk
no.
and yeah, it was like I'm kind of at this point where I've seen so much like animal suffering, it doesn't always like elicit this gut reaction in me, but for some reason I was just like started tearing up and I was like, this is
Mm.
I don't know, this is if we can do something, if we can do a campaign that makes it and the reason they have their eyes cut off is because of this incorrect assumption that it helps them, like, lay more eggs. I'm, like,
Yeah,
99%
that's
sure
right.
that's why the practice
Yeah, yeah.
exists, and yeah, and it's, like, an incorrect thing, like, it doesn't actually work, and also it's just, like, horrible mutilation, like, having your eyes cut off. So, like, if we can do something that makes it so some of the largest, like, shrimp producers or distributors don't source from this type of cruelty or do this type of cruelty, like, why would we not, you know?
Yeah.
For example, like, the prison abolitionist movement, like, the prison abolitionist movement is not, like, upset when better conditions for prisoners are secured, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Just because prisons are not abolished right now doesn't mean that they're like, "No, we don't want, like, GED programs for prisoners, or we don't want better living conditions or better food or garden programs or whatever."
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
wanna we can't improve the lives of these prisoners at all until prisons are abolished. Like, no other justice movement thinks like that.
In a way, lots of them do think like that, which is kind of sad. But I also think, yeah, when you kind of drill down, like lots of movements do have this inherent tension. But I agree. Like, if you ask people, like, should we have better conditions for, like, or if like have better benefits, people will still be poor, but like we're trying to, maybe have universal healthcare or something. People are like, oh no, it's not like UBI, therefore we don't want to. People are like, yes, like it's good to have small wins, and you can still be like
Yeah.
asking for bigger stuff and fighting for bigger stuff. So yeah, I mean, I agree that it's not one or the other.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, the social justice movements who do tend to think like that, I feel are weaker, or at least it makes their positions weaker. Yeah, if we
Yeah.
can get slowly there or actually we can't just like I don't know, like a logical fallacy that's like we throw your hands up in the air and you're just like not going to do it because it's not absolutely perfect or something.
Yeah,
It like
yeah.
reminds me of that. I feel like I got away from the question of how we can work
Oh, yes.
collaboratively.
How do we have more of this?
Yeah.
And actually, well, I guess something that like comes up from like what you said previously, maybe in terms of how we can do more of this. One is like, the very first thing you said, which is people spending time together seemed like an important thing. Is like you actually get to know other activists and know them as individuals. You're like, oh, actually, that maybe they're just like me, have similar beliefs, want to help animals. And then maybe another bit that stood out for me was like some of the ICAW people came down to the CAFT protest and the AAC protest. So like it was like it wasn't like oh please do stuff with us and we won't support you. It was like no, like we will first like help out with your campaigns and then come do whatever needs to be done. And then if you want to join ours, like that would be great. Like are those like two of the things that kind of you think worked in your opinion?
Yes, having them actually come to our actions and support our stuff. And we also did our New York convergence. We did a couple actions for ICAW.
Nice.
And but it was mainly like fur and foie gras centered. But like nearly all of the staff members at ICAW came to most of I thought some of them even came for the whole thing,
Nice.
the New York convergence. And they were like stoked that we were doing their actions and supporting their campaign. They actually came out to all of our stuff. And I think that is super important, like having the leadership of these organizations coming out to the demos and giving the energy and having it be like, I think this is also like a strength of AAC and ICAW and CAFT is that the people who run these organizations are at the demos and like meeting activists directly and
Yeah.
working on their campaigns like collaboratively. I feel like I've seen in other like larger organizations, and I mean, granted, like with big organization, leadership cannot be like at every demo. So I'm not like
Yeah.
saying that's, a huge misstep or something, but it tends to create this divide of like when the people telling you to do the protest like aren't coming to the protest with you, it creates this relationship of this is my campaign and you activists are helping me with my campaign or my organization's campaign, and this is how you can help it.
Yeah.
And I think something that AAC and these other grassroots organizations do differently is we are with these activists, like boots on the ground, and this is our campaign, and we are like equals in this, and this is how we can work together for like our campaign, and giving people like autonomy in a campaign to do the type of demos that work with their community and fit better with their culture and with their activists. That gives people a huge sense of autonomy,
Yeah.
which helps with so many things. It helps them take ownership in a campaign. They feel more connected to it. They're more likely to do demos with it. And they're more likely to stick around in activism for a while. They feel like this is a campaign that I am like super involved in and is mine as well. Where I'm not just like following orders. I'm like organizing and, working on this campaign like
Yeah.
along with these people. And like we provide a lot of guidance for these people, but we really try and like, empower them to like activists to have as much autonomy in a campaign as possible. And then also I think, yeah, like ICAW and the leadership and like the team being like at our actions in person and like doing it
Yeah.
was super helpful. And it helped our activists like it worked like the way I was just describing. Like the activists saw the ICAW people being crazy and holding it down at the demo. And then they're like, oh, I want to do these people's campaigns. I want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like, they're with it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're cool.
Yeah. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is cool. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I totally agree on like the autonomy points you said to like get people be like more personally invested in stuff. I guess I'm curious if you can talk more about the kind of stuff AAC does to actually give them more autonomy, or like how do you action design or like micro design or like things where people could feel more empowered and contribute. Yeah, kind of curious like any more specifics on this concept.
Kind of the cornerstone, like the flagship program in AIC was our mentorship program. So we have this like one-on-one mentorship program. We have our network of mentors, which is much bigger than what I described earlier. Now we have like over 50 like across the world, and anybody can apply to be a mentee. So if somebody wants guidance on how to do activism or a certain goal, they can apply through our program to become a mentee. And then through like their application, we select the best mentor for them, and they get to work one-on-one with this experienced animal rights activist, and they're going to help them achieve their goals. But even that program is like a very loosely structured program. It's really up to the mentor and the mentee to like set goals. And, like the mentor is literally just there to help facilitate the mentee in what they want to do and help guide them along the right path. We also put out free educational content. That's another like big program of ours. We think that it's it's all like free on YouTube and on our website, so it's accessible to anybody at any time. And then we have our convergences, which I feel like I've talked a lot about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we also have a very new program that we've been like loosely doing, but is going to become like more formal, is our grassroots pressure campaign like training program. So this program helps people, chapters and groups who sign up, learn how to do hard hitting pressure campaigns. And that is another thing that's very like case by case and takes into account the culture of the activist group there and the needs of the community and what laws for animals already exist, or maybe there's no restaurants that sell foie gras, so those campaigns are going to go, or maybe there's just another thing that's more pressing in the community that would be a good pressure campaign. So I think this concept of autonomy, that we and more guidance that we try and have at AAC with our activists, it's not so much like we tell our people who run the grassroots training program and our mentors, like not so much like you telling activists what to do. It's just like guidance and trying to put them on the right path and like increase activist autonomy. I think that that's really what helps people. And with the Omni campaign too, this is our first like national campaign. With that, we've really tried to work with local chapters to just we give them the guidelines, what the campaign should look like, and it's kind of up to them. They can organize whatever they want. They a lot of times they don't tell us about it, which is fantastic. We don't really
Nice.
want to know about a lot of it, you know what I mean? Here's the campaign, here's like
Yeah.
loose parameters, go for it.
Nice.
And that's really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
So it seems like you guys are going, okay, this is like the overarching campaign that we're working on, and like within that, you guys have lots of autonomy. And like, are people generally happy with that, or do you hear complaints like, "Oh no, I want to do a totally different campaign on like a totally different issue"? And like, are you also supportive of that, or do you generally try to get people to plug into like one overarching campaign, whether it's like fur or foie gras or cage free?
In my experience, activists are generally more appreciative of autonomy and to a degree, when they have like the resources they feel like they need to succeed. That's kind of like the sweet spot, like that we give them like guidance and resources and like a good foundation, and then they're free to carry it out. I think that's like the thing that activists appreciate a lot. As far as like other campaigns, we're generally supportive of whatever activists want to do, and it's never really been like a huge problem. Maybe this happened a couple times, but there are certain cities that are really crucial to certain like national campaigns. For instance, like New York, we don't really encourage and we don't really get the desire of activists to organize local campaigns, but a city like New York is like the fashion capital of the US. So all of the fur campaigns are like headquartered there and all the executives tend to live there. So that's where like the pressure needs to be for New York.
Yeah.
And like time is like finite. So grassroots activists don't have the time to advocate for every single issue or take up local campaigns as well as doing, or maybe some people do, but by and large, like the grassroots efforts, their time, the activist time is finite. So putting like the importance on a national campaign in a certain city where it's like super important is
Yeah.
generally like the way that we operate, but it hasn't ever really been like we've never
Too
had
much of
an
a problem.
issue where yeah,
Yeah.
people tend to get that. Every time we'll just explain this to them, like if somebody wants to start their own thing, we'll be like, hey, you are like the key to this national campaign, like you and your
Yeah.
activist group. We need you and that to do that. And they're usually like, yeah, because we all want the same thing.
That makes sense. It's like I also, yeah, I think people like feeling a sense of like bigger purpose, like being part of a bigger effort. So if you say like, this is a nationwide campaign and you're playing a super important role in this key city, like you could do other stuff, but like it'd be great if you could do this thing. People are like, you know what, maybe I should like help this bigger effort and I can be part of something larger. So yeah, I think it's a nice balance of like, the autonomy is there if you really really want it, but also it's like it's nice also plug into this kind of web of change. You kind of said like if you give people like guidance and resources, what kind of guidance and resources are you giving people who want to do these local pressure campaigns?
We definitely start by explaining to them what a pressure campaign is, what makes a good target, like target selection, how to do research, all the things that are foundational to starting a local pressure campaign. So we give them like the how to. And I mean, maybe some small stuff like signs and literature and support. Also, we have, like I mentioned, like one of AAC's biggest strong suits is like our grassroots network. So plugging a newer group in with the larger grassroots animal rights scene is so they can get the support and they can ask other activists in other cities for guidance. And if they have an issue with, oh, the store owner that we're trying to get to drop for foie gras or whatever, did this or they've said this, or they can seek resources from other activists. We also work closely with ALDP, which is a like animal rights law group out of Denver University. It's all like movement lawyers who help. They're like a nonprofit that basically helps activists when we get into legal trouble. Not always legal trouble, but just like legal questions.
Yeah.
And they're a resource that, like, thankfully, we have not had to lean on an insane amount,
Good.
especially with the local grassroots stuff. It's more with the national campaigns that we get into, like, an arrest might happen or something. That's always there. And I think that's a huge comfort for people. They ever have a legal question or something like that. We have that resource. Yeah, it's mainly just like giving them the knowledge and resources and talking through what makes a good campaign. The knowledge is not really out there, like super readily available. And we also don't always want it to be because we
Yeah.
don't always want, targets to know what makes them a prime target.
Yeah.
It has to be a lot of this word of mouth stuff.
Yeah, so maybe I should have asked this question earlier because this is kind of underpins a bunch of our conversation, but and you kind of touched on it. Well, why do you think the grassroots activism and getting the grassroots kind of movement involved in, I guess, a variety of campaigns? Why do you think that's particularly valuable as opposed to other bits of the animal advocacy movement?
I really, really feel like the grassroots is like intrinsic to animal liberation. I think the grassroots have this great strength of answering to nobody but the animals. And like larger organizations are definitely important and definitely have their place within the movement. And they're also intrinsic to animal liberation. I don't think we'll be able to do it without them and their strengths. The grassroots has been crucial in every other social justice movement. They've been able to do things that organizations that have like board members and shareholders and donors to answer to cannot do and will never be able to do. And that is such a strength of the grassroots. I think like the civil rights movement and like the Black liberation movement, if we look at groups like the Black Panthers, they were a grassroots group and they were able to move the needle forward for those causes in ways that like the larger, more well-funded organizations never will be able to. They were able to, other grassroots groups have been able to do crazier demos.
I was going to say, even something like you mentioned home demos. I can't imagine most of the big groups that have like they're very risk averse with lawyers. They're
Yeah.
never gonna allow them like they're like people to do a home demo. So I guess like that's like one very immediate thing. Like you can just do more different tactics, maybe more like pressure inducing tactics than other groups.
Yeah, 100%. That's like exactly, yeah, what I'm talking about. Like they're able, in a grassroots, or we're able to do, yeah, these demos that are just not, other organizations are not allowed to do.
Yeah, yeah,
And these harder hitting actions are so crucial and necessary for a campaign. Also, the grassroots has a strength in that we're like impossible to stamp out because it's not like we're not one person or one organization. We're not so tied up in the identity of one organization. And that's another reason why we think autonomy and like a distributed organizing model is so important. And equipping people, that's like a foundational principle that AAC was started on. We want to be able to teach everybody how to be an organizer and everybody how to put on demos of an extraordinary caliber. If that knowledge is isolated by people, then these forces that oppress animals just take out those 5 people and either put them in prison or make them unable to do activism, and the movement ends or at least stalls for years, which we can't afford. But if everybody has all this knowledge, then it's going to be impossible to stamp out the movement. So that's like a huge strength of the grassroots. And I think we've seen that across like social justice issues before, like disability rights, marriage equality, civil rights, and like literally every other social justice movement. The grassroots has been like integral, and especially for getting like media attention.
Yeah.
It's always these like weird, scrappy actions that like these bigger orgs, like less polished, that like these bigger orgs like wouldn't even think of
Yeah, yeah.
and might not have the ability to put on.
There's so much work that needs to be done. There's no way it can be done by like only paid NGO staff. So we kind of need
Yeah.
like a huge like volunteer army to be doing stuff because like there's just so many things about the animal ag industry that's like fucked up and we need to change it and we can't pay for all of that. So it's like we just need people who just want to do it and just love doing it and just like and also if we believe that change at least somewhat happens because people believe something is wrong, then you need these people to be like empowered to go do stuff and like actually out there. So yeah, I just think it's kind of like a necessary part of any movement that's fighting for like pretty significant change.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Can you say more about like how AAC actually kind of does get a bunch of people to come to these convergences and like, I think it's a big ask to ask someone to come like for the whole month of August, like please come around the East Coast of the US and like let's protest 3 times a day outside these bunch of venues. Like how do you guys actually get people to sign up? And actually like how big is the tour and like the convergences normally as well?
They vary in size, but like average, like 50-ish people. Maybe at a demo, we have 30 to 50 people, depending on the
Nice.
day, depending on the demo. Some people
Yeah.
only come for a little bit of the convergence. This tour, there's about 8 to 10 of us that are core, like traveling through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then I like explain we're picking up
People along
strays
the way.
along the way.
Yeah.
So more people are joining, and then some people join for like certain legs. We
Yeah.
have a lot of those people, but yeah, averagely about 10, 12, like at all times. And then the
Nice.
locals who come out for individual actions. But I think a big thing that draws people to the convergences is the community that we've created, the community of support with activism, but also just like friendship. A lot of us feel like really isolated. I'll say specifically in the US because we're so huge.
Yeah.
There's in this our cities are pretty spread out, like our big cities are pretty spread out from one another. It can feel pretty isolating, even if you have a decently big community in your city of animal rights activists. And maybe this isn't applicable to like the 3 major cities in the US, but like for everybody else, it just can be pretty isolating. Sometimes you can feel disconnected. Every group has their little like bickering things and drama that happens amongst one another, which can also feel very dividing. I mean, that's just like literally going to be the case with
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
any activist group. But these convergences, you get the chance to come together with dozens and dozens of other grassroots activists from all across the world. And I think our most recent convergence was like our 16th one that we've organized. So people have made friends that they've met at the convergences and like really strong relationships they've built with other communities. So this is usually sometimes, I know for me personally, like friends I've met through the convergences, like I really only, if they live across the US or in a different country, these convergences are the only time I see them. So there's that. Most people who come to the convergences are like somewhat of leaders in their community. Like they're
Yeah.
usually like one of the head organizers at least. And if they're not like full-time activists, they're dedicating like every ounce of their free time to
Yeah. Yeah.
activism that they have. Very few people in the world are willing to live that type of life and
Yeah.
have that type of dedication. But at the convergences, everyone there is like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah, yeah, you're meeting these people who are, like, as passionate about activism as you are, and you're able to have these conversations and pick up things from other activists and, like, share struggles and tips, and convergences are really meant to feel like we're, like, building something together,
Mm.
like, we sometimes, like, the day before, we'll sit down and make materials, like signs or something, or we'll fold leaflets together. We cook together. We always have like roles at the convergences, like the cleanup crew and the kitchen crew and
Nice.
the material collection. So we're like, and it's just like random people who sign up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
really feel like you're like doing this thing. You see all these people taking action for these campaigns, which you get so much pushback for in your real life. And maybe in your own community, you only have a group of 2 or 3 other activists that come out to your action. So people always leave the convergences like so inspired to go back to their community and take part in these campaigns. Or another thing we see every single convergence is people doing their like firsts, for the first time, like someone doing a speak out on a megaphone or leading
Oh, nice.
chants or doing a disruption for the first time or a protest. Like every convergence, so many people just because they're surrounded by so much community and support.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they go back to their community super hyped up and with these skills.
Nice.
So yeah, it's really such an incredible environment, and it's like one of just such community and support. I feel like that's the biggest draw.
Yeah,
Certainly one of
yeah.
the biggest draws for me. If I wasn't organizing them, I would be at them,
Definitely. Nothing is more appealing than just like having a really good time with people that like share similar values and like doing meaningful stuff in the meantime. So it seems like yes, there's like this like great recipe of, you know, it's fun. There's like this team bonding and like in a way, yeah, you're kind of pushing your comfort zone, but you're learning new stuff. I think what you said is super interesting. It's almost like, to use a bad analogy, it's almost like some like military boot camp, right? You're going to get these like special skills, and you'll take back, and maybe you'll teach more people,
yeah.
and then like everyone's kind of upskilling and learning in the meantime, which is super cool. So yeah, I mean, it sounds very inspiring. I'm like, I should get over to one, or maybe if you do
You
one in the UK,
definitely should.
it sounds fun. It sounds very fun. You're right about the US. It's so big and dispersed. I guess you kind of need these to like pull people together. I guess in the UK we had these rebellions where I guess similar people would come down to London for like 1 or 2 weeks, and it'd be like 1 or 2 weeks of mayhem. Sounds kind of
Yeah.
similar, but I guess yeah, you're right. Maybe it's even more valuable in the US where people are often more dispersed and isolated. So yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, we definitely want to do some outside of the US, and I don't mean to like segue if you're gonna ask another question, but I'm actually gonna be in Europe for the entire next month, like the month of September. And part of what I'm doing there, I'm gonna be like attending some conferences and putting on like some demos and meeting activists in like various cities. Like I'll be in like London and Paris and Amsterdam and some other cities, Berlin.
Nice.
There's some other ones. So like I really want to meet the community over there, and I'm gonna reconnect with some people who came to the New York Convergence, and now I'm gonna go to their city and do
Nice.
activism, like, with them, which I'm really excited about. But, yeah, I think next year, we're definitely gonna organize well, I don't wanna say definitely, but we really want to organize a Paris Convergence.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, every year, in collaboration with the CAFT campaigns against LVMH, some activists put together a week of action around, like, the annual shareholder meeting
Mm.
in Paris for LVMH. So I think we want to organize that next year, and that's something we're gonna work out. But we really wanna break out of the US too. I've just personally never been out of the US, which is
Yes.
crazy. This will be my first time going to Europe and, like, meeting all these people and
Oh wow.
activist groups, which is so exciting. So maybe next year there will be a non-US convergence, which then you should definitely come out.
That's exciting. I mean, Paris is only a short train away from where I am,
Oh,
so that
you'll
sounds
be
fun.
there.
That sounds
Yeah.
fun. Okay, so moving on to our closing questions. What's one bit of animal related news that you're grateful to hear recently?
I actually feel like really excited about a lot. I feel like there have been so many good wins since we won Marc Jacobs in 2024. I think there have been like 4 major wins that CAPT has secured for animals. And there have also been like little pieces of fur legislation that have been passed around the US, like fur bans. And I think it was for 4 major brands that also encompass like a bunch of other little brands, like,
Nice.
fashion houses or parent companies that have
Yeah.
gone for free in the last year, which is fantastic. I feel like
Nice.
that is like such a dying industry, and CAPT is like a great organization working with that. But then also just like local people passing legislation in the US. The podcast called How I Learned to Love Shrimp, and we talked a little bit about shrimp. So I got to mention the shrimp wins.
That's right.
This big, the UK retailer, Iceland, ICAW just had a massive win with them. I mean, a lot of other groups, I'm sure, they committed to quitting the eye stalk ablation. So, and that's, however many hundreds of millions of shrimp every single year affected by that. I mean, AAC is also, I feel like we've been like winning an insane amount this past year. We've helped more grassroots groups than ever before. I
Nice.
think in the last 2 years, these numbers not like exactly right, but I feel like it's
Hmm.
definitely averagely right. There's been like 100 restaurants that have dropped foie
Oh
gras,
wow.
yeah, and most of them have foie gras free policies saying that they're never going to put it back on their menu. And that is all just through local people, screaming at a restaurant or sometimes just emailing them and asking them to drop. And that's over the last 2 years. That's another dying industry that's sure to go soon, at least in the US. I know, like in France, it's going to be like
Yeah.
a harder battle. But in the US, there's only like really two farms that still do it. And then maybe one more win if I can keep talking.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good. Lots of wins. It's nice to be inspired sometimes. Otherwise, it feels a bit bleak out there.
Yeah, exactly. I know we talked a lot about the collaboration with like more abolitionists and welfare groups and whatever. I just feel like really excited about that.
Yeah.
I attended Animal Equality's like week-ish of action that they had in Chicago. I didn't go for the whole thing,
Oh, nice.
but I was able to go for a little bit. And their demos were just like extremely exciting. They look just like stuff that like we would put on and CAFT would put on. They were just great, and I really feel like the welfare space is really, like, understanding, like, the importance of these hard-hitting demos more, and I feel like, we saw so many of our people attend. I feel like most of the people that were at that event were, like, AAC activists, which is great because it was, like, entirely welfare stuff, and everyone
Yeah,
was
yeah.
stoked on it. So, yeah, that I just feel really hopeful about the intersections between welfare and grassroots and how those are becoming like more intrinsically linked. And I just feel like that's going to result in so many more wins for animals. And part of my journey in Europe is going to be helping mobilize for another shrimp campaign and hopefully a
Nice.
shrimp win.
Nice.
And that's going to come at like the end of my trip. So I'm hoping to get, a lot of people out there for the shrimp campaigns and hopefully, get that more going in Europe, like those two intersections. So, yeah.
That is cool. I mean, it's a good place to be. It's a good problem to have lots of things that are going well. And yeah, 100 restaurants that have either dropped foie gras have a policy to not serve it is like amazing. So yeah, that's credit
Yes.
to all you guys' work.
Thank you.
Do you have any media recommendations for listeners? Could be books, podcasts, articles, or anything that either has been inspirational for you at AAC or you personally.
Couple books that like immediately come to mind. This is an Uprising, fantastic book. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably over recommended, but I liked it too. There's a book I read really recently called The Confidence Code. It's specifically geared towards women and like the confidence gap of men and women, but anybody can find it helpful. And I feel like, especially as a grassroots activist or even somebody like leading more like corporate campaigns where like your confidence is like so important, the
Mm,
success of what you're doing. I feel like that book, I cannot remember the author, probably should have wrote that down. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. I also recommend the Animal Liberation Hour. Fantastic
yes,
podcast
it's a good podcast.
by
So who runs this podcast, Penny?
well, we do. AAC, it's our podcast. It's great. It's an interview style podcast, and we interview influential animal rights activists from like all over the world. That's really one where we try and like get as a diverse crowd of animal rights activists doing tons of different stuff, from like legislation to sanctuary work to pressure campaigns to direct action, just tons of activists and interviews. So definitely recommend that. It's just fun to listen to.
Nice. And finally, how can people get more involved with your work? How can they follow you or follow AAC, and how can they get on board if they want to?
Well, I think we're Animal Activism Collective, like everywhere. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All of our educational content that I mentioned is like archived on our YouTube. So we have like over 100 workshops and live streams and
Oh
stuff you
wow,
can check out.
that's cool.
Yeah, and that's really something we're hoping to like put more attention to in the next year as our educational content. You can sign up for a mentorship program if you are an aspiring activist or if you're somebody looking to sharpen a certain skill in activism. We have mentors that are like proficient in a lot of different types of activism that we would love to connect you with. So you can apply on our website, animalactivismcollective.com. And there's like a button that says become a mentee right on the homepage. Grassroots pressure campaign training program isn't like officially launched yet at the time that I am recording this, but maybe at the time that it's posted, I'm not sure the turnaround time it will be launched. And then that you can sign up on our website too.
Nice.
If anybody has any like questions about anything, but you don't want to be a mentee, but you want to get more insight about activism, you can reach out to us like on Instagram or through our email, like it's just contact at animalactivismcollective.com.
Hmm.
Or I think we have join at animalactivismcollective.com. But yeah, we're always happy to field any questions about activism.
Yeah, but I think definitely the website seems valuable if people want to either
Yeah.
become a mentee or just hear more about what you guys are doing and on your other socials and stuff. And that's it for me. So I guess thanks so much, Penny, for I guess all the amazing work you're doing and for taking time out this busy rage tour. And hopefully you guys can get some sleep before you guys mess up some more companies. But yeah, thanks for all that you do
Hell
and
yeah.
thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah. And thanks for having me on and letting me talk about all this stuff that I'd love to talk about. I appreciate all the work that you do. So yeah, it was a pleasure.